Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Angry Jay here today, and it's been quite some time since I've done any recordings. All the previous ones that you've seen, Detroit, Chicago, Toronto, which will be coming up shortly. These are all videos I recorded over a month and a half ago. So between traveling for tournaments, going to the King of 94 tournament in Vancouver, going to the Tecmo tournament in Green Bay, the hardcore tournament, which I had a lot of fun at. It's just been difficult for me to get behind the microphone here and provide some team breakdowns and other content for my channel, but I'm back and I hope to get back into a consistent groove so that I can keep producing content for you guys, because I've had a lot of positive feedback about people enjoying what's going on here, and I continue to want to provide something for people to watch. So hope you guys were satisfied while I was gone, but I plan on posting some more content, or at least at a greater frequency than I have been over the last couple months or so. So we're going to jump back into the team breakdown series. We're going to jump into a team that I'm not really a big fan of in this game, and that is the St. Louis Blues. The Blues finished 37, 36, and 11 in the 92-93 season. That's good for a total of 85 points. And they were the fourth seed, and they ended up beating Chicago in the first round of the Norris Division playoffs, but then moved on to the division final against Toronto and ended up losing there. So it was a nice playoff run after a so-so season for the Blues, but still disappointing, as I forget how many years it was, but I believe they made the playoffs over 25 consecutive years, and I think it ended in the early 2000s, and none of those runs culminated in a Stanley Cup or even a finals appearance. So a lot of disappointing playoff runs, regardless of the type of regular season they may have enjoyed. In NHL 94, the St. Louis Blues have a strong home ice advantage and an average road ice disadvantage. So they're going to be pretty strong at home. They're going to get some nice bonuses, but when you take them on the road, they're going to face a few penalties. And if they're going up against a team like Chicago within their own division that has a high home ice, it could be problematic, because those bonuses for Chicago paired with St. Louis's penalties, they can add up pretty quickly. But luckily, you won't be taking St. Louis up against Chicago very often in tournament play. You'll mostly just be playing against the likes of Chicago in online play when you're playing regular seasons in classic mode. But in tournament play, St. Louis is a tier 5 team in my mind. So this is right above the expansion level teams. They're not really among the elites of the NHL 94 world at all. Their best matchups are against New Jersey, Hartford, the New York Islanders, and you can also use them against Washington, because Washington has some really poor goaltending, and it allows St. Louis to stay in the game. You can take St. Louis up against Pittsburgh, but essentially Pittsburgh is just a better St. Louis, so that can be a little bit tough. And you can also take St. Louis up against Quebec, because Quebec's not very good on defense. St. Louis can push them around physically, and Quebec isn't very fast. So that's where you can take them up into tier 3, but I wouldn't want to take them up against the other tier 3 teams like Dallas or New York. They're just going to skate circles around the Blues. So some of the strengths for St. Louis is they do have some natural goal scoring on this roster. They have two forwards in particular, Brendan Shanahan, Brett Hull. If they can get the puck on net, they can definitely put some points on the board. They have also a lot of CB checking options on this roster. So if you like using your heavyweight players and throwing your body around, St. Louis certainly has some options that you can look at in that regard. They have the best AI goalie in their tier 5. Tier 5 generally has more user control friendly goalies like Chris Terreri, but in terms of AI goalies, Curtis Joseph is generally a head above the rest. St. Louis is also strong at home, which can be useful when in tournament play, because you can throw them into a matchup if you throw them into a matchup, you're going to give your opponent good home ice. So if you're that guy getting to select between, say, St. Louis and Hartford, or St. Louis and New Jersey, if you want that strong home ice advantage, the Blues are your best bet in that tier. And lastly, they also have a great number 1 D-man in this tier, Jeff Brown. We'll get into him a little bit later, but he is a very accomplished defenseman. Weaknesses for St. Louis. They are a very slow team. They are not much faster than the expansion teams. I mean, even San Jose could almost skate with them stride for stride. And when you start taking St. Louis up against some legitimate teams, the difference in speed is very noticeable. St. Louis is also bereft of elite skills once you get past Brett Hull. Brett Hull has five stick handling and 6 shot power. Those are some pretty elite skills, but once you get past that, there's not much left on this roster. Also, when it comes to their defense corps, there's nothing after Jeff Brown. You get Jeff Brown and a bunch of guys who really shouldn't be starting on any team in the league. It's pretty unfortunate that they have this issue, but it is what it is. St. Louis can also be easily overwhelmed by skill or speed, so you have to play a very defensive game with St. Louis if you want to keep yourself in the game. Also, St. Louis, lastly, is light on pure setup men and dynamic players. So you may have a couple of really nice goal scorers, but you don't really have the best guys to get them the puck with. Also, you don't really have a lot of one-on-one ability with this team, so you can't even just be very aggressive on offense and just kind of ram through your opponent and make things happen. You kind of have to be a bit more you have to build up your offense a bit more. You have to be a bit more patient. I'm struggling to find another word, but you have to be patient with St. Louis. You can't just do whatever you want. So that's certainly something to be taken into account when using the Blues. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the forwards for the Blues. First lineup I would recommend is Craig Janney, Brett Hull, and Nelson Emerson. So Craig Janney, he's kind of an unpopular pick, but I've really grown to like him over the years. He's just really a very basic type of player, but on St. Louis, his well-rounded abilities are really a welcome sight. He has 4 agility and 3 speed. If you're unfamiliar with the ratings I'm using, I'll have the description down below in the video to alleviate any confusion. But Craig Janney, 4 agility, 3 speed, so he's got that nice agility, which is higher than his speed, so he should be turning pretty well on his skates. He'll stop nicely. He's good. He's good and close with dekes as well if you can get him in towards the net. So he may not be the fastest getting there, but once he's there, he is dangerous. He's a left-handed shot, so he's on his natural ring. He's got 5 offensive awareness and 4 defensive awareness, so he's usually in a pretty good spot on the ice in AI mode. He's got 3 shot power, 4 shot accuracy. Nothing impressive there, but at least if he's going to get the puck and he's going to put it on net, he's usually pretty accurate with it. Unfortunately, he only has 4 pass accuracy. He was actually one of the better passers in the early 90s. He carried Cam Neely to some pretty impressive goal totals, as well as Brett Hull in the early 90s. Only received a 4 passing, 4 stick handling. It feels like he really got the short end of the stick here. Probably should have been a 5 or at least maybe a 6 in passing. And maybe the stick handling was only a 4, but I really feel like he got undersold here, unfortunately. And that really does hamper some of his abilities in this game. 196-pound forward, so he's a middleweight. He's not really much of a body checker in any regard. He can weight bug check the really heavy defensemen in this tier like Zarley Zalapsky and Scott Stevens, so that is something you can take into account when using him on the forecheck. But generally, he is your main puck carrier up the ice to help kickstart the offense. It's a little unusual to use this setup because you have your left wing as the main setup man for your right wing, your right-handed center, So it can be a bit of an issue sometimes to get the puck all the way over to Brett Hull's stick, but luckily, say you're on a backhand one-timer, Brett Hull with 6 shot power, he's going to really, you will hardly notice the difference between his 6 shot power backhand and a 4 shot power forehand on the one-timer. I mean, you're not going to notice any difference, I don't think. So Brett Hull is still a very fine option from the center for Craig Janney to feed. And speaking of Brett Hull, this is your main weapon, or in some cases, possibly your only weapon, depending on your line combination. He has 4 agility, 4 speed, so he's a very average skater. He's a right-handed shot, as I already mentioned, who has 5 offensive awareness and 2 defensive awareness. So he's going to be really focusing on playing offense. He's going to be just all out on offense, looking for those chances in the slot, which is really helpful for a team like St. Louis because they aren't really offensive minded at all. So having him there is definitely a boon, and his 6 shot power is unfortunately accompanied by 3 shot accuracy, but the 6 shot power is really what matters here. This is the sort of thing that can really blow manual goalies out of the water. It makes it tough to cheat over on these one-timers in time. Because Brett Hull just released the puck so quickly and the puck gets on the net, so fast. It's very problematic, especially against user goalies. I think he's better against user goalies than AI goalies, especially if he's got a pretty good feel for the net that game. If he's hitting it more often than not, you're going to get some goals with Brett Hull because you just can't stop that shot power in a lot of cases. Unfortunately, he's only a 3 pass accuracy, so you're not going to be doing a lot of great dishing with him, but he does have the 5 stick handling. So what little one-on-one play there is with this team, Brett Hull can shake off some checks and some poke checks and continue trucking on through the slot to try and unleash his slap shot or a floater of some sort, as he does have actually a very nice float shot because of that 6 shot power. So when he releases a wrist shot, it's still pretty quick. 212 pounds, so he's a heavyweight. So he's really going to have a hard time against weight bug defensemen or even weight bug forwards who are trying to come in and back check him. He's a 3 checker, so he's going to be a decent CB check option on his own, but he's certainly not one of the better ones. He's not like he's, Mark Messier or Jaromir Jagr or even Mario Lemieux type good in terms of forwards. But he's still very competent in his own right and can be a defensive force, whereas before, just when we didn't know about the CB check, Brett Hull was kind of he wasn't very good on defense at all. He was just an all-offensive player, but now he does have some ability on defense aside from poke checking, and it's something that is helpful for the St. Louis offense, because if he can create a turnover and then he can just rip a slap shot or get a nice deke off, it really helps your chances of winning games. And then lastly, we have your weight bug option, Nelson Emerson on the right wing. 4 agility, 4 speed. He's a right-handed option, so that's his natural right wing side. He's got 4 offensive awareness, 3 defensive awareness, so nothing too spectacular there. He's got 3 shot power and 3 shot accuracy, so he's even lesser of a shooter than Craig Janney. He's got only 3 pass accuracy, but the 4 stick handling can be nice if he's on a hot streak. He can shake off a few poke checks every now and again. 172 pounds, so he's a serious CB checking target, but on defense he is an absolute monster because he does skate well enough, and he is enough of a force on offense to, when he creates a turnover, he can do enough with the puck to get to someone who can light the lamp, such as Brett Hull. So Nelson Emerson, just your good old-fashioned gritty winger who goes north-south and can cause a lot of problems for your opponent if they have a heavier lineup. So one other guy you might want to consider seriously if you want another goal scorer is Brendan Shanahan. He has 3 agility, 3 speed. That's really his main issue. He's not very fast at all. He has 5 offensive awareness and 4 defensive awareness, so he's got good awareness on the ice. Not quite as dominant of a shooter as Brett Hull with only 4 shot power, but the 5 accuracy makes him more consistent. If you're looking for more consistency out of your center, maybe Brendan Shanahan is the guy you want to go with, but the lack of speed and the lack of elite stick handling, Shanahan only has 4 stick handling and 4 pass accuracy. He isn't quite as appealing at center as Shanahan, I think. As Hull, I think, but Shanahan is still a very nice option in his own right. Probably better off as a winger. He's at 220 pounds, only 2 checking, so he's not quite the monster CB checker you would hope for, like Jaromir Jagr or Mark Messier, but against a lot of the lightweight forwards or lightweight defensemen, he's still going to be plenty able to wreak a lot of havoc. It's just that slow skating and lack of agility that is the main trouble here for Shanahan. This team is already so slow and so heavy on the back line especially, that icing a forward like this can be problematic in some matchups. But if you're playing against a team like Hartford or New Jersey, you can ice him because those teams are not extremely fast, and he can likely hang in those matchups. So he is definitely a ace up your sleeve if you need some more offensive support. Going beyond him, you don't really get a whole lot. You have another backup option for Nelson Emerson, and that is Bob Basson. He's just a lesser Nelson Emerson. He's got 3 agility, 4 speed, so he's going to be a little weird to use on those in-tight dekes or even really trying to shadow the faster players. He just doesn't turn or stop well enough to do that. He's got 2 offensive awareness, 2 defensive awareness, so he just kind of floats around out there at times, not really knowing where to go or really helping out anybody in either zone. So you just have to hope he kind of finds his way and runs into things more or less. He's only got 2 shot power and 3 shot accuracy, so he's definitely not an offensive weapon. And then it's even further compounded by 2 passing and 3 stick handling. So he's not really a reliable playmaker either. All he is again, 172 pounds, same weight as Emerson, 4 checking. AI mode, if he's around somebody, he's liable to knock them over. And when in user control mode, he is a fantastic weight bug checker. But once that puck gets on his stick, he's really a liability in terms of offense. And even with just people hunting him down as a CB check is always looming with Bob Basson. He's not very good at shaking them off or even dodging them, as his lack of agility will be problematic in that regard. So nothing more than a sub, but Bob Basson. If you love weight bug players, you might want to put him in over Janny. But if you want any sort of offense, it's really tough to recommend Basson unless your name is KG Man. And if you're not KG Man, you're not going to get the offense you need out of him. A couple other guys you can look at if you really run into some issues. Kevin Miller, just quickly go over him. 4 agility, 3 speed, so pretty slow. But the agility's nice. He's got 4 defensive awareness, 3 offensive awareness, 3 shot power, 3 shot accuracy, 3 passing, and 3 stick handling. So he's just very average. 196 pounds, middleweight. Just a really average player. A little bit slow, really. But in this tier, he might be okay as a sub. But nothing really fantastic there. And lastly, the only other real option you have on this team is Ron Sutter. That's Rich Sutter. Where are you, Ron? There you are, Ron. One of the 6 Sutters from Viking, Alberta. He has 3 agility, 3 speed, 3 offensive awareness, but 4 defensive awareness, so he should be helping out in your own zone quite a bit. 2 shot power, 3 shot accuracy, not very good, but 4 passing, 3 stick handling is better than some of these other forwards that we've been talking about. 188 pounds, 4 checker. He's a decent CB checker against the really lightweight players, but in this tier there aren't a lot of super lightweight players, so he doesn't really need that ability. He's a decent weight bug checker on his own, but the lack of speed, not great. I think I might have said he was a 3 speed. He's actually a 2 speed. So again, or actually no, sorry, he is a 3 speed. Excuse me. So, but still not very fast. Can't really rely on him for a whole lot. He's just a nice sub off the bench if you want somebody who's more of a consistent type of performer than say Bob Basson. Definitely don't want to start him. So get Emerson back in there. Now we're going to talk about the defense. This won't take too long because there's only a couple guys even worth mentioning. So first, Jeff Brown. This is the number 1 defenseman I was talking about earlier, who is really good. He has 3 agility, 3 speed, so he's actually a little slow, but in this tier, he should be fine. There's not a lot of speedsters in this tier. The only one you'll maybe go up against is Peter Bondra. And even then, Peter Bondra, he's not very agile, so you should be able to hang with him as Jeff Brown on defense. He has 4 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness. He's a right-handed shot, and I put him on the left side because it's easier for him just to rip a slap shot than it is to be on the right side and rip a slap shot. Also, he has better puck handling skills and passing skills than anybody else on this roster, so it's just easier for him to play his unnatural side. He has 5 shot power, which is very elite, especially for a defenseman, and 3 shot accuracy, which is very rare for a defenseman. Typically, they don't have this sort of shot accuracy. You get guys like Al McInnes who have a 6 shot power with 1 accuracy or something along those lines. So 3 shot accuracy, you can actually rely on Jeff Brown's shot in a lot of cases. He's got 4 pass accuracy and 4 stick handling, so he's very capable with the puck on his stick. 212 pounds makes him a decent CB checking option, but he's only a 2 checker. So you have to be a little bit more careful against guys like, Stephane Richer, for instance, in this tier would be someone to really be mindful of, and Pierre Turgeon. Jeff Brown's probably not going to be a very good CB checker against them. You won't be able to rely on that consistently. You'll want to use your poke check more, just because of that low checking rating, and also the skating can be a bit problematic in terms of getting him rolling on defense as a CB checker. But against anybody lighter like Valery Zelepukin, you should be fine. He should be just used as a good positional defenseman, generally speaking, because if he can just make the other team make a turnover or just kind of skate themselves into a bad position, he can take advantage of it, get the puck on his stick, and then you can kickstart your offense. This is definitely the guy you want on your blue line to try and do that with, because there's nobody else on this roster that can ignite the offense like Jeff Brown can. So you really want to rely on him as much as possible. And your number 2 spot is kind of a black hole, really. Your best option probably is the default starter, Garth Butcher. He has 2 agility, 3 speed. Pretty unimpressive. He's a right-handed shot, so I'd like to keep him on his natural side. He's got 2 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness, so hopefully he should at least be staying back on defense, even if Jeff Brown's going on excursions to try and create offense. Ideally, Butcher stays back far enough to where his lack of speed doesn't become an issue in giving up breakaways. He has 2 shot power, 1 accuracy. You're not really going to use him on offense, so don't worry about those ratings anyways. He's got 3 passing, which is decent for a bottom-tier defenseman. 3 stick handling also is acceptable. 212 pounds, 4 checking. He's a better CB check option than Jeff Brown if you can get him going in the right direction. The 2 agility is really problematic. He doesn't really start. He has very poor acceleration, so it can be tough to get those CB checks because a winger may have just zoomed right by Garth Butcher before he could actually get his speed burst out and touch them. So you really have to plan ahead with him. And again, you might want to just be a little bit more careful with him than you would be otherwise because of that lack of agility. So try and use your poke checks, and if you really get a great chance to CB check somebody, then go for it with Garth Butcher. Otherwise, just try and play it cool with him, because if he gets beat, he's not going to get back on the play. Really, the rest of the roster is pretty uninspiring. Kurt Giles, he's a weight bug option, but he's not good. 3 agility, 2 speed, 1 offensive awareness, 3 defensive awareness. Not a shooter at all. He's not someone you want to have the puck on his stick with, because 1 passing, 2 stick handling, and he's just going to turn it over most of the time. The thing about him that is nice, 180 pounds. On this roster, especially on defense, you don't have a lot of weight bug options. This is really your only one. And if you just need a weight bug guy, he might be okay. He's not a demonstrably worse skater than some of these other players, but he's really not a good player at all, especially with the puck on his stick. And that's a huge issue in hockey, because generally it's a good thing to have the puck on your stick. But with Kurt Giles, generally it's not, unfortunately. Another guy, Doug Crossman, pretty poor defenseman. 2 agility, 2 speed, 3 offensive awareness, 3 defensive awareness. Really all you're looking at is the 2 shot power with 3 accuracy. It's really not beneficial for a guy that slow. You're not going to get a lot of chances with him. 3 passing, 2 stick handling. So the 3 passing is nice, but he's really just a very vanilla defenseman. 196 pounds, not a good checker. You just can't really recommend them as a full-time starter. Garth Butcher's probably a little bit better, even though he's not all that great either. And then lastly, Stefan Quintal. 2 agility, 2 speed, 1 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness, so he should hopefully be hanging back on defense with that type of awareness. Not much of a shooter. He's got 3 passing accuracy, for which a guy this lowly rated is pretty nice, to be honest. 3 stick handling, also a good skill to have. 228 pounds, 3 checking. He's a pretty good CB checker, but 2 speed, 2 agility, good luck. If you're able to do something with that, you're gonna have a good CB check on your hands. Otherwise, I can't really recommend Quintal over Butcher. So Butcher it is, as gross as that may sound. Lastly, talk about the goalie, Curtis Joseph. I did mention that he is the best AI goalie in this tier, but he's also probably one of the worst manual goalies. He has 4 agility, and he's really got his overall pumped up by his defensive awareness, which is a 6. So he's got all these points in his overall due to his defensive awareness, which don't really do a whole lot for a goalie. So don't look into his overall rating all too much, unfortunately. He has 4 puck control, which is his rebound control. He's got a 3 rating on his sticks and 4 on his glove. 188 pounds. He's going to be okay as a manual goalie. He's not going to be anything spectacular like Chris Terreri in New Jersey, who is probably the de facto number 1 manual goalie in this tier, without a doubt. He's just going to be perfectly fine. If you have to use him in user mode, he's going to be more easy to use than Don Beaupre, Sean Burke, and especially Glenn Healy. Glenn Healy is just not good at all in this tier. So, Curtis Joseph, not going to win you a whole lot of games. Hopefully not going to lose you a whole lot of games. So let's go over the team strategy here real quick with St. Louis. On offense, you want to get Hull every opportunity possible. He is your number 1 goal scorer by far, and he is your best bet to beat a manual goalie, especially one who is kind of falling asleep at the wheel a little bit. So if you can get some nice one-timers off with Brett Hull, you're going to have yourself a good head start on some offensive production with this team. With St. Louis, you want to make the game ugly. You want your opponent to be having to play a very slow, methodical type of game. You don't want them flying all around the ice making plays, because that's going to make St. Louis look real bad, and you're going to be in real tough in those matchups. So just play a tight checking game. Be disciplined on offense. Don't just throw the puck around hoping things will happen. Just be methodical and really look for your chances and be patient out there. You also want to be proficient with your CB checking on this team, or if you don't really care to CB check, be efficient with your poke checking. You can't just go around slamming the C button trying to speed burst into everybody with your defensive players like Butcher and Brown. It's going to cause you a lot of problems. You're going to have a lot of missed checks, and a lot of guys are going to be going off for breakaways and making you look bad. So just be patient, play positional, use your poke check, and if a guy does give you a chance to CB check him and you like to CB check, by all means do it, because St. Louis, they're pretty proficient at it. especially if you have Shanahan and Hold contributing in that manner as well. Um, with St. Louis, I already kind of touched on this. You just want to value the puck. Don't turn the puck over in the neutral zone. You don't want to turn it over high on the blue line in the offensive zone and help the other team just get a nice counterattack on you, because you don't have enough speed anywhere in your roster to be back checking and as much as you would like. Because if if the opponent gets a couple strides on you, they're gone. Unfortunately, because you just don't have enough speed on this team, especially if you're trying to use Craig Janey or Brendan Shanahan. I mean, if those are the guys closest to making a play happen on defense, you're just probably not going to get there. You're not going to win those foot races. So just take care of the puck. Also, you just want to make simple plays. So that's part of taking care of the puck. Just, don't try these home run bombs if they look like they're maybe covered, or even if they're double covered, especially. Just, go D to D. Work your outlets up along the boards if there's room there. And, if the middle's open, then, go to your center and then look to distribute to your wing once the defense converges on you there. You just don't, there's no need to just really start throwing the puck up the ice crazy like with St. Louis, so don't do that. And then lastly, you want to protect Curtis Joseph as much as possible. Yeah, he's perfectly fine as a goalie, but there are some pretty decent goal scorers in this tier. You got Dmitry Kristich, you got Mario Lemieux, Stephane Richer, Pierre Turgeon, Benoit Hogue. I mean, this is more of a defensive-heavy tier, especially when it comes to CV checking, but there's still some really good goal scorers here, at least with the terms of shot power. They may not be the most consistent shooters or the best or the most dynamic skaters, but if they get the puck on the net, they can score. And you definitely want to protect your goal as much as possible, so just be aware of that. So let's go ahead and jump into this matchup here between St. Louis and New Jersey, which is a pretty common matchup here in Tier 5. So we'll just jump right in. Should probably turn on the sound. Forgot I had it off. Sorry about that. I guess I forgot I had the sound off the entire time. So that's just me trying to get back into the groove here. Forgot about that, and hopefully it doesn't deter you guys from watching this too much. Hopefully my voice didn't make you just want to shut this entire thing off. And if you already did turn it off, then you probably don't have to hear this conversation, as it's already probably 20 minutes into all this. So it's like I'm already on the penalty kill, and I missed my home run pass though. This is really even matchup, I think, because New Jersey is one of those teams in Tier 5, not very fast, not exceptionally skilled. The only elite skill they have is Stephane Richer's shot power. And if you can limit him and the one-timer chances that he gets, New Jersey's going to struggle to find the offense, because they don't have enough shot power to really threaten you from outside. So everything they're going to rely on is really inside the face-off circles. And if you can protect that area, you're going to do really well. So you really want to stay away, like I said, you really want to stay away from any sort of matchup with speed or a lot of skill. So stay away from Dallas, stay away from the New York Rangers. Don't go anywhere near Philadelphia. Washington's really the only team you can threaten, because their goaltending is so bad. And wow, I just totally whiffed on that. And then you definitely don't want to take them into Tier 1, Tier 2 against those LAs, Quebecs, Calgarys, or not Quebecs, Calgarys, Vancouvers. That's just a really bad idea, so don't ever do that. And generally, most people don't do very well with St. Louis in season or classic seasons, because well, St. Louis just isn't very good. So if you have St. Louis in the upcoming classic season, my apologies to you ahead of time. Just try to do your best with them. Try to keep the puck in front of you and limit your opponent's chances. And I think that's your best bet in staying competitive with St. Louis. Otherwise, if you try and play run and gun hockey with them, you're not going to find a lot of success. Even if Brett Hull is just going crazy on offense, it's hard for him to keep up with 6-7 goals a game. It's just probably not going to happen. Oh, God. Butcher not going to help you out on offense if he comes out of the box. So it's probably would be advisable if you get in a situation like that where you have a really poor defenseman at your right wing and you have a really poor defenseman. I think I have Giles out there in substitution of Butcher, who was in the box. So in those situations, you might be looking to just knock the puck out of the rink. Get it over the boards, or if you're using goalie mode and you make a save, just don't be afraid to freeze the puck and get your right winger back out there, Nelson Emerson. He's a really useful defensive player, so you don't want to be without him for too long if you can help it. And then, you can get Garth Butcher back to where he belongs, and it's because he's just not going to help you on offense. He's not a goal scorer. He's not a very good skater. So you're probably really hurting your own chances. You're more likely to give up a goal with him in that position than you are to score one. So no sense in being stubborn or just trying to make sure the flow of the game keeps going. I mean, sometimes you got to think about what's best for you and your team, especially when you're at a disadvantage, which St. Louis usually is. And yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not doing very well with St. Louis. I've been playing a lot of NHL 94 DOS version, which is a little bit different feel than the Genesis version. There's a lot of similarities in terms of how goals are scored, but the feel and all of it is pretty different. And also, I just don't like St. Louis, to be honest. They're probably one of my least favorite teams. I'm never excited when they are selected in a matchup in tournament play, because sometimes they just miss easy goals like that, and they're not very dynamic. They're not very explosive. Within tier 5, I think they're fine. I don't mind using them, but if you leave it up to me, I would never select them in a matchup unless I really thought my opponent even hated them even more than I did. So this is probably one of the last teams I actually got good with, along with Washington and the Rangers and Winnipeg. Those are the teams I really struggled with. And wow, Terrari's just stopping everything. I can't anything going in this game. Where was I? I said Terrari. Yeah. Oh, I was talking about teams I don't like. So the reason I don't like St. Louis is because they're very slow, and I don't feel like they have a lot of pieces that work well together. For the longest time, I was not using Craig Janney. I was using either Brendan Shanahan or Bob Bass, and that was just a really rough experience because I was using Brendan Shanahan before we knew about the CB check, so all he was this huge target for weight buggers, and he was very slow and had difficulties getting to scoring areas and unleashing his shot. So I thought, if he's not shooting and scoring, what good is he doing me? But at least nowadays, you can use him as a CB checker, so that kind of helps alleviate some problems for the Blues, because I will throw him into the lineup in certain matchups. I think this might be one of them where I would against a human opponent, because I really like what he can do on offense, and he's not going to be as taken advantage of in some other matchups. And then I also just started to like Brett Hull more. Started using him more and more in one-on-one situations because his high stick handling does allow for him to do some things on offense that I didn't really think he was capable of at first, because I didn't really, because when you think of Brett Hull, all you think of is a great goal scorer. You don't think of him as a good stick handler. But this game gave him really good stick handle rating, so you want to try and use it to your advantage that he has that. And I think that really opened some doors on offense for St. Louis. And then just playing more control with them on defense. I used to play a really frantic style. Believe it or not, I was nowhere near as methodical or as much of a tactician as I try to be now. I was just very much helter-skelter. Let's go score 8-9 goals a game, and if I give up 7, then I win. Who cares? I just wanted to score 8 or 9 and do what I wanted out there on offense. I didn't care about the defense, and you just can't have that mentality with St. Louis. It's just not going to work. I don't care who you are. You're going to have a very difficult time with that mentality. So once my mentality kind of changed, it actually brought some of these other teams into a more of a comfort zone for me, like St. Louis, like Winnipeg and the Rangers and Washington. It helped me figure some things out with them, because you can't just use every team the same. It's just not going to work out. And clearly, it makes a lot of sense when you say that, but you don't always think about it when you're using these teams. You just think, okay, I'm going to try and outscore the opponent. I'm going to try and do what feels good for me, and just stick to what my plans are. Let's say I'm a good one-time shooter. I'm going to stick to one-timers even if I don't have a good one-time offense on this team. Or whatever it may be. So once you kind of learn how to use these teams to their strengths, regardless of what they are, and clearly I didn't seem to use them very well in this game. I only got 3 goals. It's pretty sad. But that's one of those things you just have to keep in mind with these teams is, what's their strengths? And St. Louis is defense and playing controlled game and feeding the puck to Brett Hull, which I don't think I did very much of. I don't think he had very many shots. He might have had 2 or 3. That might have been part of my problem in this game. Yeah, he only had 2 shots. Excuse me. So you should really be hyper targeting Brett Hull. You don't really want to try and spread out the offense too much unless it's just wide open and you can't help it. But you really want to just get the puck to Brett Hull and let him do his thing, because if you can get him to put 7 or 8 shots on net, he's probably going to score 4 or 5 of them just because of his shot power alone. So that's really one of the keys to success with St. Louis. So hopefully you can do that a little bit better than I did against New Jersey here in the computer, because this was pretty pathetic. This was probably my worst performance on offense in all these matchups so far. So hopefully you still managed to learn something from all this and enjoyed me trying to bring these team breakdowns back to you on a consistent fashion. So I'm happy to have you guys around. If you have any questions or if you have any comments or feedback, just leave them in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter or on the forums at NHL94.com. I really welcome any sort of feedback or conversation. So I'll leave you guys with that, and I'll see you guys soon.